A message on her smartwatch revealed my wife's infidelity and my parents supported her. Is she really such a skilled liar, and who is her lover? Rachel, my 9-year wife, chose to relax after dinner last evening. She went to the living room to watch her preferred shows, while I watched the Mavericks game and finished some scheduled tasks in between. She suddenly had drunk 2 bottles of wine. I went to check on her at 1:00 a.m. and discovered she was asleep on the couch. Her wristwatch chimed with a note just as I was ready to bring her to bed. It stated, "Ha ha, I can do that, my partner would freak out." Curious, I pressed on it and discovered a communication between Rachel and a guy I know, Alex. Alex is not a close buddy, but we have known each other since our teenage years, drank beers, and played basketball together for years. We dubbed him the Coat Keeper, as he would carry everyone as outerwear during teenage fights. So I scrolled up and tapped on the chat on her wrist. From what I could see, he messaged her first unless she removed something. Though there was plenty of flirting and winking, nothing blatantly that you could call cheating. When I got there last night, she started asking him for sex while intoxicated. My eyes became blank, unbelievable. I am paraphrasing since I am not sure the exact wording, but she said how much she always wanted him, how nobody would find out if he wanted to do something, and that she was fantastic at keeping secrets. I don't know her phone passcode. I tried to go farther on her watch, but couldn't discover additional texts. She was taken to bed, and I sat in the kitchen shocked until I slept off. I then got up at 6:30 for work, realizing I couldn't face it when I got to my work vehicle. I slumped over the wheel and returned inside to retrieve a half-finished whiskey bottle, filled it out with soda, and strolled down the abandoned railway line. I have walked about half of the miles-long ancient railway line that runs beside many forests around here. I am seething about everything right now, sitting beneath a train bridge. You would most likely believe the steam emanating from my ears caused a fire. And what ought I to do? After reading it, I avoid looking at her. I don't want to chat to her either. It felt to my heart like a blade. Reading her begging like that appears to have melted every ounce of affection I had for her. Gross. Actually, I want to ghost her. I would never talk to her again if only could. The whole statement, "I am great at keeping secrets," really spoke to me. Like, just who are you? Though it smells, the question is how deep down the rabbit hole I should travel. To be honest, I have little interest. I am only done. In my life, I have never felt so let down and disappointed. The truth is, I have given her so much personally as well as a companion. I loved her very much and felt her personality, therefore naturally mine, also represented nice people. Knowing she is a backstabbing serpent makes me feel like one as well. I am worse than I was yesterday. The only way I could explain it is like learning life lessons from someone you looked up to, advised from, then found to be truly a pedophile, rapist, or simply a monster. You put time in a creep and followed their advice, so your whole view of yourself and who you are collapses. God, I am running through pointless babble. I am in apologies. We moved in. I am lucky our house is owned by my parents, who relocated to a retirement village 7 years ago. When they depart, the home will be given to me, but I do not, and preferably not for very long. Wanting to spend their last days in peace, they couldn't bear the upkeep. My soon-to-be ex won't get her hands on it either when we do divorce. What then is my next action? To be honest, I could toss her straight out and say nothing. Also, it occurred to me while I was traveling here to ask my friend, a locksmith, to subtly alter the locks today. About anything breaking with the doors, I could fool her with some gibberish. Long as I am nearby, she won't give a damn. Lock the front door once he finishes, then tell her to come out and see something in the rear. Just rush back in and shut the door behind me when she emerges. That sounds young, not quite right. Still, I really have no idea what to do. Right now, I am gazing at a bottle, and my life seems to have been ripped apart at the seam. Regarding that jerk, Alex, he most certainly was acting with intention. I will be seeing him very soon. There is also little question I would have hardly noticed this at all. Never worry about coats, he will be clutching his face. To cool off, I went to a friend's house and tossed the alcohol away. Her texts have been inquiring where I am because my work truck is still in the driveway. I got a lift into work after texting her to let her know the engine was broken. Tonight, I will make my move. Update. Many thanks to everyone who got in touch following my initial article. One truly appreciated it. So yesterday, after I had published the article and was a mess, 2 dog walkers came over to check on me as I obviously worried them. I addressed everything for them. I have to thank her since at that moment I was on the freeway headed into hell. I tossed the alcohol away, called a buddy, and he advised me to come visit for a while to cool off. He informed me where the extra key was, even though he was at work. Our tiny town, which has around 250,000 residents, was not far apart. Once I arrived, I sat on his couch attempting to cool off. Rachel texted and called me many times in the morning inquiring where I was and what was going on because my work truck was still in the driveway and I could not be seen. She appeared to buy when I texted her back, stating there was an engine issue, so I got a ride into work. She just responded back saying all right. About 7:00 when my friend returned from work, I requested his opinion and told him all that had transpired. I also advised him not to tell anyone about Alex, as at this time I didn't want Rachel to be contacted back off. I would sort with him later. I mean by that I will reveal his tiny rodent nature. Right now, knocking him out does not help. As an aside, he messaged my wife first for those claiming he did nothing wrong. He was somewhat flirtational. Why, first of all, is he texting my wife? He just knows her in passing. Two adults chatting is okay with me, but from what I could see, they scarcely knew each other, and it was flirtatious from the beginning. They had seen each other while out and about, and it seems playful now. My friend persuaded me to try and keep a low profile and see what I could find out, but today I also spoke with a lawyer and started my options rolling. About 8:00 he brought me home, and by then I was really tired. I was rather fatigued when I returned home as I believe the adrenaline coursed all day and then stopped, abruptly wiped me out. Rachel was on me immediately away, asking all kinds of questions about work, so the instant I went through the door, I knew something was strange. She claimed that I had left my large flask in my lunch bag in the front seat and that something had gone wrong today. She could feel it. She then wondered why she even bothered. I was just too exhausted, not ready to lie. Yeah, there is something up. Last night when I was putting your drunk ass to bed, a message came up on your smartwatch which I read along with all the others, and that you are a disgusting cheat. I want nothing more to do with you. I couldn't be bothered putting on any pretense. Her manner changed from an arms-crossed person in charge to a terrified small child in a second. She started crying and I simply turned away to head upstairs to the shower. She said, "Good at keeping secrets, huh? Begging that little rat for sex, huh?" Yep, read it all. She was still weeping when I went out, seated on the top step, and the excuses started straight away how she was intoxicated, weak, had never done anything like that before, how he messaged her first, and it meant nothing. She never was going to follow through on it, like she had the playbook out, almost everything someone on here was saying. She did not try to assign me guilt either. She most likely understood that if she had tried that, I would have tossed her right out the door. I informed her I wanted a divorce, and for her to be out of the house in 1 month. She was heading to the extra room, I also told her. Since then, I have essentially been mostly ignoring her. I'm merely scowling at her and shaking my head when she begins spewing gibers. I am not interested in hearing it. Last night she slept in the guest room. Today I hardly have spoken to or texted her at all. Perhaps she will be gone when I return from work if fortune favors me, but my luck is not very good. My mother insisted I wasn't dumping her out on the streets when I was telling her parents what was occurring today. Close and always have been, she and my mother. It would have been 13 years in December together, saying she made a mistake and that we should handle it like adults, that we had too much going through together, and that she did nothing. It is only words, my mother was saying. She totally sided with me instead. It startled me. Maybe this screw will mess me. Should my mother object, do I have any right to ask her to leave? When my parents pass, it will be literally my house. I did nothing wrong, hence I am not leaving. Most likely it will develop into War of the Roses Part 2. I will be visiting a divorce attorney next week to talk over my choices because I was able to schedule an appointment. I suppose I will simply ignore my soon-to-be ex-wife till then. She is most likely not going to confess anything else now. I'll never know if she was only chatting to him to get him on her side for an affair or a very great liar. I apologize for the slow update. Just have the time to compose it now as I finish off my work. Update. The situation has been horrible since I discovered Rachel was trying to cheat on me with Alex 22 days ago. She has been sleeping in the spare room, but it is evident now she does not intend to be leaving after she got into my mother's ear. I offered her 1 month to go. Although she has nowhere else to go, it is not a concern to me. Having seen my divorce attorney several times, I am now working on a divorce petition and getting her served with divorce paperwork. Along with opening my personal bank account, I took half of the amount from our joint account. To put it mildly, the house has an unusual aura. As we both spend most of our time in our rooms, the living room has become a no-man-s land from which none visits. I also purposefully have been working late a lot to avoid interacting with her very much. I had been totally neglecting her, but after learning about the 180, I started following it and have been cordial, if a little chilly, toward her. I'm so happy I did this since I started to feel like a monster rejecting her existence. It was not the correct manner to behave, and instead of the other way around, I felt like the one who had offended her. I broke from the 180 just last week when I entered the bathroom and saw her sobbing on the floor near the bath. Though it was more of a there kind embrace than one with great affection connected to it, I helped her up and naturally hugged her. The terrible part is that I am so wary of her now that I wouldn't put it beyond her to be waiting on my coming in so she could perform. Though this is the kind of stuff I'm thinking about in this surroundings, most likely that isn't even true. It just is poisonous. She's been stating she will do anything to rescue this marriage, anything to explain it was simply a careless error. I therefore mentioned a lie detector test. I never intend to ever finish one. I would not even know where to start. I simply wanted to find out how she responded. She was all for it, till a few hours later when she came to me, tablet in hand, complaining about how inaccurate they are and that worry and stress may produce misleading readings. And with her anxiety problem and all else, I chuckled. It was hardly even a typical giggle either. It began as a little cuckling and finished in a young laugh. She seems would try all to salvage this marriage. Basically, anything but a lie detector test. Still, it makes no difference either. In my initial post, I meant what I stated. Every ounce of affection I had for her vanished into the environment as I read her speak those horrible words. She is no longer the person I could disclose everything to and would trust with my life. She is not my genuine love. I only see rubbish that has to be disposed of before it smells the area. Since I mentioned Alex to our buddy group a few weeks back, he has been the buzz of the town. He has been totally shunned and most certainly has no friends left among us. A few times I tried phoning him, but he banned my phone and turned down my calls. That little rodent. I want it to have been worthwhile. I questioned my mother why she was supporting Rachel S.'s side during a furious dispute after several talks about this. Like, was there anything she omitted telling me? Her expectations of our behavior were what? Go on as nothing happened and live like neighbors. It is ludicrous. She stated Rachel is the daughter she never had but always desired. Before I was born, my mother had a stillborn daughter who has tormented her. She has latched on Rachel and has done so ever since we first met. They have a tight relationship, as I said already. Rachel only has few acquaintances with busy lives and families. If I threw her out, she would be all alone. My mother believes that this is unacceptable, particularly during a pandemic. Rachel does not have any family, saying that in 3 or 4 months we can review it again and see where we are psychologically, and is pushing me to attempt couples counseling before I toss in the towel. She tried to persuade me to come to a compromise. I am not acting in that regard. I get sick thinking of sharing Christmas with Rachel in the same house. She will want to do it just as she does every year. It will be a whole production. Bless him, my dad, he has never been particularly talkative, never up or down, only always there. He is a quiet, proud, yet shy guy, and the word that counts in our family has always come from my mother. People on here have been telling me that although it is now a question of my wife or me for my parents, I am selfish and spoilt since it is not my house and I have no right to make demands. Should worst come to pass, I am prepared to leave the door and never return. Someone needs to maintain their promise in this mess. I have to be able to reflect on myself in the mirror with some sort of self-respect. Should I decide to leave, my buddy has advised I could spend a few weeks or so with him till I straighten myself. Still, I am done with my parents if I do go out that door. In my lifetime, I never will talk to them once more. They will most likely view it as my giving up on them, me going away without at least trying to have a go at repairing things first. I see them selecting someone who hurt my heart above me. Like, since I am gone, what will be the logistics of this? Just her staying there herself, my father and mother tending to a backstabber while their flesh and blood disappears alone. A bit additional background about the house following our wedding: my parents let us live in a year. Though at the time it was simply their banter, it was an evident belated wedding present. They always intended to move us in and out. Over the years, I have paid tens of thousands on it that is neither here nor there. I dream of walking away from this, all behind, go somewhere fresh and beginning once more. I do not, however, know someplace else to go. My life I have lived in this town. I know just what it is. Is my tone here too severe? Though I feel conflicted, I am practically ready to take my parents out of my life. Why am I the one among us who has to part from everyone and everything? I have tried to be kind always. I felt you made your own luck and that good things come to nice people. Perhaps I fall short of my own expectations. Perhaps I am due all I receive. Wednesday, December 4th. I stopped calling that house home this morning. Knowing Rachel would be gone for a few hours, I saw on the schedule that she had a hospital appointment with her ophthalmologist. I used it as an opportunity to get my stuff prepared and move out. I just placed the home keys on the kitchen table together with the divorce papers I obtained from the lawyer last week and was on my way after organizing my belongings. I have banned Rachel S. and my mother S. numbers, and moving forward, any correspondence I have with Rachel will go via my attorney. Regarding my residence, I am staying with a friend for a week or two, but ideally I should be in my own leased house before Christmas. In a few weeks, I have not spoken to my parents. We last communicated by text, and I attempted to explicitly explain to my mother the things Rachel was saying to Alex, why it hurt so much, and why, with the entire "I am good at keeping secrets" line, did I not believe it was her first time doing it, and therefore could never trust her again? My mother responded by text, stating she would let me cool off, but she cannot talk to me when I was like this. A few days ago, she tried to call me. I just turned down her call. As I mentioned already, I banned her number today. My parents really let me down, and right now it seems nearly worse than the original betrayal from Rachel. Right now, I'm not sure whether I will ever talk to them again. During difficult circumstances, you turn on your family to be strong for you, to be a rock, and provide the wronged one comfort. Weakness has come from my parents. They have made me feel as like I am overreacting, as the one in the wrong, and it is me that is separating this family. It is not, though. They made their decision when I asked them to lift mountains for me, just get my unfaithful wife out of the house. Though he didn't, my father also had the opportunity to stand up for me and ground down his life once again. I suppose you decide and live with your decisions. People have been saying things like, I threw up the towel so easy, I was looking for a way out, and didn't love Rachel since I didn't work hard enough to rescue things. But that's not true, seeing some of the comments on here from my past writings. More than anybody on this planet, I loved Rachel, and learning what she was doing shattered me. We all have limitations, hence once those limitations have been exceeded, things alter irreversibly. Reading those terrible books changed something inside of me. Like breaking out of a movie trance, I had feelings for her. Everything tried after that simply delays the unavoidable. Since I am gone, I have to admit that the whole nature of their relationship interests me now. Knowing that their contact with their son has been severed, are my parents going to keep supporting her? Regarding myself, I would really want to travel. Rachel detested flying, hence most of our trips have been to southern England, including Newquay and Cornwall, so it would be fantastic to visit overseas once more. 14 years ago, I was 21 on a Mate S trip in Spain, the last time I traveled overseas. Once this epidemic cools down, I absolutely have my sights on the States. I would want to see a bit of America. Update: as I last blogged here more than 7 months ago, I honestly felt that was it for me, as I didn't need any more guidance. I had done what I said I would and made decisions, but this morning I received a call dragging me back into the mud. I wanted her out of the house and my life, but I had no desire in reconciling. Walking away from my house that was to be bequeathed to me by my parents and breaking my ties with them as they sided with my wife over mine. My mother left the home and hasn't talked to us since this morning. She attempted to keep us together and felt she was guiding us across difficult seas. I changed my phone number, relocated 18 miles away, and am currently working through divorce from Rachel. She has hampered matters by totally disregarding all the demands from my divorce attorney to comply. She will be formally served by the courts after we apply for deemed service should she continue to ignore. I can proceed with a divorce without her involvement. Well, this morning while at work, I received a call from a buddy informing me that my dad was attempting to get in touch, as my mother is not feeling well, and would it be reasonable if he gave him my number? I responded all right then. My dad called to let me know Mom was in the hospital. She is not fantastic, but rather stable. I was obviously startled, as I hadn't heard my dad's voice for so long. It was also the most emotionally charged I have ever heard him speak. Mom really wants to see me, so would I meet him at the hospital tonight and enter to visit her with him? I replied, all right, and I have set out time to meet him outside the hospital. Unable to focus, I finally made my way home from work. Here I am climbing the walls, wondering whether I made the correct choice or whether I am about to be dragged back into the disaster I left behind. Never having been so anxious in my life, the lack of control I have over the circumstances has caused my thoughts to spin in many different directions. Blinded with no notion where the exits are, I feel as though I am heading into a burning building. Why should she want to talk to me right now? Has she come to terms with it? I believe that improbable, unless she has also had a personality transplant while in there. Rachel is scheduled to be present. Never seeing her again appeals to me. Regarding what happened with them and the way they sided with my unfaithful wife instead of mine, I still find great resentment. Though I have been backtracking in my brain about attending, I will go. I was also considering perhaps asking her whether she would be well enough to let me know whether she wanted to talk over the phone instead. Walking away makes me feel like the evil person here and maybe contributed to this. In what manner would you approach this? Any guidance would be much sought after. I apologize for the late update. I have been trying to process what occurred and how I feel for the past few days. I did so endingly visiting the hospital on Wednesday night. I felt my resolve breaking, therefore after much to-ing and froing, I was really going to back off at the last minute. But I wanted some closure and knew I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't attend and something occurred. I was half expecting Rachel to leap out from behind a bush or something when I pulled into the hospital parking lot and had this strange sensation of great paranoia. When my dad tried to hug me at the door, it felt really awkward. I turned away his hug. Then I stated I am turning around and leaving if Rachel is here in any form, shape, or manner. He told me she wasn't tea, and we headed to the ward Mom was in. My mother looked like she had been in the battles, hence when I saw her, I became terrified about my life. I never have seen her looking that delicate. She had a severe black eye, plenty of bruises, and purple yellowing along one side of her face. She fell seriously, fractured 2 ribs, shattered her elbow, smashed one side of her head or face on the ground, so elbow, ribs, then head in that sequence. She seemed dead, then woke up when she saw me. She informed me she missed me greatly and she wasn't positive she would ever see me once again. I advised her she could have contacted me if she had truly wanted to get in touch. We talked for a while about what precisely had happened, how she was down for a few hours before my dad discovered her, and that she was resolved to return back to normal and heal relations with me. I mentioned Rachel and that I had been advocating for a divorce, but she was either not getting the letters or ignoring them, so I inquired whether she still lived in the house. Mom said she was, and Dad started to look uneasy. I merely turned away in contempt. Mom began to claim Rachel is lost without me and that she is not in good health. I understood then that nothing will change. She has not got a flash insight or viewed things from another angle. She simply wants the status quo returned. I told her I don't want the house. She stated it is my house and always will be. Now it means nothing to me. All it retains are terrible memories. In total, I remained for less than an hour. I mentioned before I left if I wanted to be contacted, but Dante be waiting by the phone for me to call you could be waiting a while. Dad inquired whether I would remain in touch with him when he walked me out. I responded I would. Right or wrong, I'm not sure. Time will reveal. Though my feelings were a little erratic when I returned home from melancholy to anger, I am pleased I attended. Could not help but consider Rachel as well and what she once meant to me. When I consider all that has transpired over the past 8 months, it will never not hurt. To be honest, it does not feel genuine. The rate at which everything came apart was just amazing. I knew life comes at you quickly, especially when you're not paying attention, and I wasn't paying attention. Simply by chance, cosmic coincidence, nothing more, I discovered she was trying to cheat on me. I never put things together or spotted the warning signals, Something I noticed on her watch ripped apart my life. Now I see that wasn't the only time. I know that in my heart. I see what she is and simply feel scorn for her. I do not love her. She took, I believe, the finest years of my life. When I consider all the wonderful times, they seem to be soured. It seems like the life of someone else rather than mine. My buddy advised me to consult a therapist or anything else to try and let everything out else. This would drastically alter my identity and the way I develop connections going ahead. I will do it. I believe I am somewhat broken inside and should act accordingly. Although the last 8+ months have been the hardest of my life, I would much rather things happened rather than remain hidden. I'm simply unhappy that it happened the way it did yet. I guess you cannot select the manner someone screws you over. You only have to grow from it. I saw it now, as I recall reading about loyalty being the most underappreciated quality. Most likely since, well, you never really know whether someone is actually devoted to you until they are not. Though not something you deal with every day, today more than ever I understand how vital a quality it is. Update first in terms of divorce from Rachel. I am now in the home stretch. She signed the divorce paperwork, and right now the legalities remain. She messaged me via my dad saying she felt she could fix things, but now she realizes she cannot and she needs to move on for her own well-being. She apologized for not allowing me go on. I appreciate her sense of reality. She claimed she would be moving out of the house when she could get on her feet, and she did not want anything in the divorce. I am fine with this. Regarding my mother, I have not yet spoken with her, but my dad mentioned she is doing much better after leaving the hospital and returning to some normalcy. Though I'm not sure how things will turn out with them, I have advised them to enter my name immediately should the house be mine to provide some security. We may then begin to attempt building bridges. We will find out how that turns out. My mental struggle to move past all that has transpired is the toughest one I have ahead. The brain is a fantastic yet terrible thing. For instance, I still taste the truffles I laughed at then threw up at my grandmother's house when I was about 5. Though I never ate truffles once more, 30 years later I can still taste those things. I am realizing that I do not want to carry ideas, emotions, and beliefs about anything that has occurred 30 years down the road. I desire not to be among those elderly individuals whose suffering in life has completely knocked away something nice. Often you hear about such people how they used to be decent, kind, or funny, but somewhere along the way they had events that permanently transformed them, turned them into someone they never intended to be, and left only suffering. I wish not to be that person. I have to let this anguish pass before it swallows me. Starting treatment and consulting a psychiatrist, both over the phone and in person, has been quite beneficial for me, if only momentarily. Honest communication about everything has been quite healing. Something else my doctor said to me truly spoke to me. She remarked, "Your best years are the years you've got left." What I believe she meant was that the past is gone as I groaned about how my finest years were behind me. Apart from your thoughts, it does not exist. The here and now does, however, and you may decide to live in a past that isn't real to anybody else except you or maximize it. I will most certainly try to keep in mind this sentence when I am down. I wanted to travel, and that is at last occurring, as I mentioned in one of my earlier pieces. My buddy has promised to accompany me. We have a trip to Los Angeles for a week at the start of October. Truly excited about it. Always yearned to visit Los Angeles when the leaves changed. It brings to me that movie, You've Got Mail. In terms of travel, this is only the start of my exploits. Memories of adventures I experienced overseas should abound in my later 30s. Still, that's the strategy all around. All I remember is waking up with hope in my heart and a spring in my step, for the first time in what seems like a very long time. Should it not be improvement? I am unsure of what is. Hello, I thought it would be appropriate to offer one last update and wrap things here because it has been a year since I published my tale. I am formally divorced, first of all. Feels like a weight has been released, but also a solid end to over 30% of my existence. About a month ago, after visiting a buddy, I really saw Rachel for the first time since last January while I was walking into a store in the town center. Just as I was stepping in, she was opening the door to leave. We established eye contact. Even though we were both wearing masks, I observed right away that it was hers. She said something I couldn't understand, then we just sort of looked at one another for a few seconds before I went inside. This extreme gloom descended upon me as I was browsing the store, and I had to stop to gather myself. It merely proves that one glance will help you to feel right back to square one. Do I miss her? Not yes. I miss the person I believed she was, but if she ever existed, that person is no longer. Still, I do not wish her suffering or injury, not at all. I simply refuse to go ahead any more knowing hate in my heart. In the long run, I will be the only one it burdens. A friend's girlfriend also told me she was convinced she spotted Rachel outside a pub in the city all over another guy a couple of years ago. She apparently never told my buddy or me anything as she didn't want to interfere and she wasn't sure it was her. She really irritates me as with that knowledge years ago I could have done. Though it's hardly definitive, I could have found out whether she was out that evening, etc. Therefore, save me a great deal of pain down road. I now know the reason I have never enjoyed her. Apart from wanting to see Los Angeles in fall, one of the reasons we wanted to reserve a trip to Los Angeles in October was because the travel restrictions between the USA and UK were anticipated to be easing in September for fully vaccinated passengers. Regretfully, that has now been pushed out to November 8th, therefore casting our plans in doubt. Since my buddy also cannot take time off from work till the new year, if I were to travel, I will have to go alone, which is quite upsetting since we were both looking forward going together. Still, I am really keen on spending the new year with him. I need to give things more careful thought. One thing this epidemic has constantly been able to do is deliver curveballs. Hence, I really cannot criticize or claim surprise. Still, I will arrive by hook or by slant. In that sense, this marks only the beginning of my trip. Remember, I struggle with my parents as all I have for them is total disinterest. I simply find it impossible to feel anything, hence, no matter how hard I try, I doubt it will change. My dad has attempted to mend the connection once more, but I no longer care. Though that seems severe, that is the reality. Though I haven't followed up on it, in my last post I said that I wanted them to list the house in my name. Although I attempted to establish some control at the beginning of our talks and was just annoyed at the moment, I truly couldn't care a damn about that place. Living in the home from Nightmare on Elm Street would be preferable, in my opinion, than there. Not one thing would be changed either. Unless it becomes a time-traveling home or negates what they done, it cannot reverse time. It is just the depressing result of their decisions. Please, Dante, forgive a cheater to anyone out there considering it. You are flogging a dead horse, dear. Avoid becoming the person frantically trying to extinguish flames set by your unfaithful partner as they joyfully renew them. Having gone through everything that has transpired and reading a lot of infidelity support groups in the past year, I feel stronger than ever. If you fail to cut your losses, you are let yourself in for a world of hurt. Sort of a related narrative, but at the beginning of the year I had an extremely terrifying incident cutting the back of my pant leg on a metal dumpster while brushing against it at work. I never knew it had resulted in a cut until I got home, and I felt strange going to bed at night. About 2 in the morning I woke up and felt pulsing in my leg, deathly sick, seeing double, vertigo, and alternately between a strong fever and chills. Since it was Friday night at the height of COVID and I knew straight immediately it may be sepsis, I summoned an ambulance, which they told would take 2 hours more. I was hyperventilating like crazy and my thoughts were light-speed loops around my mind. When I was losing it, do you know the one thing that helped me to cool off? I knew I may die, so then for some reason I simply stopped feeling terrified. Though I'm not sure if it was the entire accepting fate frame of mind. When I realized it may be over, all the permutations were eliminated from the equation, and everything got rather simple and peaceful. I have been considering it a lot lately when I consider betrayal and adultery. I see great similarity. You have to come to see that what you have is past. It long ago. Fighting that unwinnable war is great, and all if someone is ready to sink such depths and stab you in the back so ruthlessly for their own enjoyment, however, when you're pissing into the wind with lottery chances of succeeding, is it worth it? Does the suffering pay off? I do not believe so. Though everyone has unique circumstances, including children, etc., some arguments are simply plain stupidity. You will immediately find things clearer once you accept that it is over. That is simply what I see. We are only free to do anything after we've lost everything. Tyler Durden, Fight Club, said. Funny, since I was in high school, I haven't written about my ideas and emotions. For a living, I labor on rooftops. But this event has brought that side out of me, a side I had essentially ignored. Should something positive result from this disaster, it means I will not be bottling things anymore. Having everything out there and seeing the wider picture of my circumstances has been relieving for me. Even if it is simply writing to myself in a diary or notebook, putting things down has helped me more than I could have ever expected and will be something I keep doing. I believe there are times in your life when, all said and done, you could have pointed a pin in and declare that day to have been on a knife edge and could have gone any way. I fear to consider what would have occurred had I not noticed the dog walkers or sought assistance on this website. Having thrown Alex, nicknamed Coat Keeper, right through his window frame after running through his house like a tornado, I most likely would have been blackout drunk at death's door in a ditch someplace or in jail. To be honest, though, it worries me to consider where I may have ended up should things have gone south. I was not in a good state, whatever your method of cutting it. Being drunk, ashamed, and burning with wrath may lead to anarchy. Ultimately, I am glad I passed the other side without injuring someone else or myself. Most of my postings have centered on the specifics of what was occurring, but I believe the past few have more to do with my feelings about what has transpired. Betrayal simply leaves such intense and intrusive ideas. Nothing on earth quite like this exists. In many respects, having someone you love stab you in the back is special, and the feelings you experience following it are, by the same measure, rather individual. Thus, let me be heard. In my first post upon learning, I felt like a worse person than I had been yesterday. Well, with all that has transpired, I also feel like a stronger one. I appreciate you perusing my article. I know right now what I have to do. I must continue to breathe as tomorrow the sun will rise.